Brad Cesmat Show, broadcasting live.
It's Good Monday. Thanks for being with us. We are going to have John Wilner Hotline today. Today is, by the way, today, if you're just like, you've been on vacation, you've been here, you've been there. Yeah, today is July 14th, because I just felt like it is the middle of summer, but there's too much going on to just say, let's bring you some best of, even though we have tons of that, and there'll be more of those here during the summer. I just felt like let's get a show together. In particular, with having John on today, SEC Media Days started today in Atlanta. And the commissioner of the SEC put the hammer down about he doesn't agree with the Big Ten. How does this impact Arizona State and Arizona and the college football playoff in general? We're going to get into the weeds, because these are weeds that you do need to know about. If you say, I'm a big college football fan, or I care about Arizona State, or I care about whatever college, USC, whatever, John and I are going to get deep into the weeds. Opening comments are brought to you by Desert Financial Credit Union. Desert Financial Credit Union, taking care of you, taking care of your business through the years. That is Desert Financial Credit Union. We do appreciate their support. It is the middle of summer. It is the break with Major League Baseball for the All-Star game. The Diamondbacks as closers, the Diamondbacks as sellers, the Diamondbacks as sellers or buyers, whatever direction you want to go. When I say closers, I say that because they don't have one. They don't have two. They don't have three. How many guys do they have to go through this year in the back end of their bullpen? And yet they're only 5.5 back in the wild card race, even though to me it feels like they're 12.5 back. I'm leaning now. I'm on the 70% side of sell. I get it. All it takes is a 4 or 5 game winning streak, and you're right there for the wild card. I'm also one of those that believes that if you're in it for the opportunity to win a championship, you go all in. If you're in it to get into the postseason, which sends a message to fans, hey, it's great. Hey, this is awesome. But you're going to lose some guys anyways as free agents. There are times where fans have to be understanding. And so if it is, you know what, Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen are not going to be here, or Gino Suarez is not going to be here, the time to trade Gino is now. It would be hard to do. That was interesting yesterday in the Major League Baseball draft. The Diamondbacks took a shortstop. How many shortstops do you need to have within the organization? You have Perdomo signed to a long-term deal. You have a very good shortstop at AAA. Are you looking at it and saying, hey, we're going to really shake things up? So it's an interesting time over on that front. Spurge is with us. So Spurge and I and Jordy were in Texas last week. And here we are a week later. And you had a good time in Texas, didn't you?
It was a great time. We got to talk to all sorts of people. Food was okay. The Star was cool. The food away from Media Day was really good. Media Day, it's always a mixed bag,
Will I see
comfort?
Will I see this on the expense report?
Yeah, you will. You'll definitely see some good food on the expense report from Jordy there. So it was a good time. It was a good time. We definitely learned a lot, and it was fun.
Yeah. What was your highlight?
Ooh, the highlight for me, catching up with Devin Dampier over at Utah. I mean, we were really close, and he was at Saguaro when they walked in the morning. It was me and Jordan Ham went up and, dapped him up and said what's up, and he remembered, and he was super excited. He's like, I'll make sure I come talk to you guys first. And we did, and that was really cool catching up with him. That was fun. And then, just doing the typical deep dive stuff. It was nice that Jordan Tyson, CJ Fight kind of opened up on some faith things with me. That was really unique and different. And
you like doing that.
Exciting. I do. I like talking to people about whatever makes them tick, whether it's faith or just anything away from sports. And it was really cool that they did that, and just to see people connect with it was really cool too.
There was a time where talking about someone's faith, an athlete's faith, was just viewed as taboo. Mm-hmm. People thought that it was like, I just don't care. All I care about is them running for touchdowns or scoring points. I don't give one rat's about what's going on. And now I think through the years, that is still out there with people that are in their, north of 45 to 50. But I think that there is a lot of interest and a lot of intrigue and like, oh, that's really cool that person is telling me something I don't know about them, rather than here's the car I'm driving. Like back in the day, Spurs, there was a show, MTV Cribs, that was really cool and popular. And then it crashed and burned because we just don't care what kind of house you live in. But when somebody opens up about things like their faith or their family or their friends, I think it's just different. So it was cool to see that. He did good work with Jordan Tyson in particular. He is like, this is the best part of media day. Like, you were his favorite interviewer. I thought that was great.
I mean, that's always, I mean, it's never our goal to be the favorite, but I think what we do is very unique, and we get that a lot from just different angles, whether it's Jordan Ham printing out AI wrestling photos of people, or, you know, the typical, like, you ask every single time at these things, what have you been asked 100 times today? Okay, what do you want to be asked? And then you just go from there, and it's just different. You know, you walk by it, it's the, how excited are you to be here today? And what do you think is the goal this year? And can you repeat as Big 12 champs? It's blah, 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 blah.
Or it's just go team go, and like we're never gonna get it all figured out. We have a new teammate. We have a couple new teammates, and today I wanted to bring on board one of the new teammates. Her name is Kayla Marino. Kayla Marino. Marinara.
Yes.
How do you feel about me mispronouncing the back end of your name over and over and over the next few years?
I'm used to it. It's okay. But you could just call me Marinara instead.
So Kayla's story is Arizona State. Well, I'll tell you, what is your story? Why are you here today? Why are you with Spurge and I? What is going on?
Because I want to join the Sports 360 AZ team. That's why. But I mean, I just graduated from Arizona State in May from the Walter Cronkite School, have a strong passion for storytelling, and this is the place to do it. And I can't wait to start storytelling and, you know, tell
like
those
what?
stories.
Like what? What are you interested in telling? Like, do you see something out there today? You said, I'd really like to go chase this story. Do you have one? Do you have 5? Do you have 10? I don't know. Do you have any?
I have a couple, but I like finding the stories that a lot of people don't know. So obviously there's sports, and there's a lot of people who are involved in sports and just the, you know, stats of it all. But there's so much more to the athletes that a lot of people don't realize that could potentially either be the reason why these athletes are the way they are and the reason why they're good. There's just so much more to these athletes that I feel like all fans need to know about. So just kind of being able to tell those kind of stories that not everyone gets to see is something that it's very unique and very different. That
this is unique and different. Yeah.
What? Yeah.
What we do here is not, you've been part of the squad now for what, a month?
Yes.
Yeah. Is this the same experience that you were expecting when we tortured you with our interview skills and all that? Or is this gone about as you thought it would?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I've been everything. I've expected everything that I've been doing, and I love it. And I can't wait to start doing more. So,
okay. Because the audience, if people that are watching this know that we're just a little bit off center or a little bit right of center or left of center, it just doesn't matter. But it's not going to be the same old stuff. I remember one time we had a guy that he was pretty sure of himself. And I said, go to Lake Powell and go study the clams that are destroying the bay up there. And he was looking at me like, well, what does that have to do with sports? Because there's water skiing up there. There's jet skiing up there. It's a water sport. It's outdoor sports. And he went up there. Then there's Claudia. Claudia is in Nowhere, Texas working. And she says in her interview, yeah, I'm in Nowhere, Texas. I want to come back to Phoenix. I said, what do you like to do? She said, I like to hike. I said, well, then go create a segment called On the Rocks and go do it. And she has, and she's done it very well. So I would say I'm laying this out for you, Kayla Marinara. I may just call you Marinara.
yeah.
You know, the audience may be, are your parents watching? Is this one of those deals where the parents are checking after?
I sent it to them. They're also 2 hours ahead of us. So.
Oh, okay. All right. So where are you from? Because there are going to be people who want to know your story. I'm not going to go too far into it. Where are you from?
So I'm from the suburbs of Chicago, Arlington Heights, Illinois. on a good day, 30 minutes from the city. So
What's a
I
bad
say I'm from Chicago. I could say that. I'm not from Cornfields, Illinois. But yeah. So yeah, grew up there, played sports my whole life. Soccer was my main one. And that's kind of how I fell in love with storytelling, because I was around so many teammates who had such a background, and it really did contribute to how they were as an athlete. And no one knew about it. Not even, I would tell my parents and they would be like, oh, I never knew that about so-and-so. Like, that's kind of how I fell in love with the whole storytelling.
You know, I tell people everyone's got a book in them. Everyone watching this or anyone listening to it, y'all have a book in you. Some books are very thin. Some books are really thick. But if you don't think your story is worth telling, you're wrong. Everybody's got something that is of interest. You just have to be curious. So soccer was your sport. Were you any good?
Yeah.
Well, you have to think about it. There you go. You know what I would call players when I coach, because I coach my daughters in basketball and they did soccer too. They were empty jerseys. The players that didn't know, meaning they get out on the field or the basketball court and they didn't do anything. Were you an empty jersey, Kayla?
I mean, there were some games where I was an empty jersey, but there was also some games where I did really good. So,
yeah. All right. Well, I wanted to bring you on board. And is there any hidden talents that you want to share before I kick you out? Do you have any hidden talents to play the trumpet or anything?
Oh, I wish.
Cards, collect cards? No. Pretty straightforward, huh?
Pretty much.
All right.
You might see hidden talent one day.
Oh, well, that's what we want. All right, we'll get out of here. Good job. And you will be doing more of this. Let's leave it at that. There's Kayla.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Sure. Spurge is back with us. And so have you learned anything? Do you learn anything from Kayla there? She's nervous.
Yeah, she did great. And it's good to know that we had somebody else with a hard last name to pronounce that no one ever says it. That's where Spurge came from. That's why it just kind of stuck.
Goodbye. I get called, when I was playing sports, I'd get called cesspool. Hey, cesspool, you suck. Like, okay, whatever. Really? That's the best you've got? I remember my first beer too, sitting in a game. Come on, guys. Yeah, you're around the Diamondbacks a lot, and then we'll break here for Wilner. But where are you at on breaking up and tearing down or sticking with it on the 4th of July? I mean, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think they're in a weird spot. You have your young core. They're good to go for the next 4 or 5 years. They're all under contract. Catel's locked up. Corbin's locked up. Corbin Burns will be back in 2027. Justin Martinez will be back in 2027. So I think they got to do a little combo here. Mostly sell. If you can get an arm or two just to get through the season at a reasonable price, maybe you do it. Not with the hopes of making a World Series run, but literally to survive the season, because you go into a game. I was there in Anaheim because I was out in California this weekend, and Juan Murillo comes in the 8th. And you can tell in the first 2 batters he doesn't have it, but he gets left in because they have literally nobody else to turn to, and he gives up 5 runs. Right. After the D-backs just made a push the inning prior, and that just deflated all momentum. So they're in that spot. So it's easy to say trade Gallen and Kelly to get something. Who's going to start? All your young guys that are slated for next year are on Tommy John surgery. They're recovering. They're not going to be able to pitch.
Somebody's going to get fired over this.
So it's going to be, interesting.
It's got to be somebody. Do you fire the pitching coach? Do you fire the training staff? There's no way that Ken Kendrick is going to sit here and say, we put together this team. I spent all this money. And all that ever happened was so-and-so's on the injured list for the rest of the year. So-and-so's having arm surgery, ulnar nerve. Yeah. I've never seen anything like this, Jordan.
No, 31 pitchers this year have been used. It's just one of those things. It's bad luck. It could be the training staff, and they probably will take the fall for this. But it's also a bigger story in baseball of, hey, these kids have been pitching every weekend since they were 10 years old, nonstop, and the arms are not able to sustain. And I think we've reached a point where everyone's throwing 99 plus. I don't know if the body's meant to do that. I think there's very few that are able to do it. The Verlanders of the world that were throwing 100 miles an hour when they were 38. Every once in a while, there's a guy that's meant to. Other ones, they've been pushing the barrel a little bit, and I think it's just not sustainable. So that's a bigger baseball question. But yeah, to answer your first question, the D-backs, they'll sell. They might hold on to some of the guys, a Gino maybe, but look at Naylor to be gone, Kelly Gallen potentially. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a different team.
So you're saying 5.5 out, sell.
Yeah, there's just too many teams ahead of them. and there's not enough teams selling. So the market to buy and improve this team isn't good enough. And if they become sellers, they become the team that everybody wants players from.
Yeah.
So I think if you're looking at 27, that's your best bet.
Well, and two, I think because the stadium issue is now behind them. If the stadium issue were not behind them, the public sentiment would be like, what are we talking about here? But now that has gone through, from my view, and there could always be delays, but from my view, it's, look, you gave it a run. We had all these injuries. We're building towards, because the stadium, I believe, is 28.
Yep.
I think it's 28. So you look at next season, nobody's going to expect them to do anything because of all the injuries. And you start building that towards when we have a stadium that's rebuilt finally, that there's a team that's very competitive. That's where I think you've got to look at on this.
Yeah, it's a balance, because also at the same time, when you do get that deal done, you want to make sure you're still selling tickets. Otherwise, it's going to leave a bad taste in people's mouths. So that's why, okay, if you trade Suarez, well, what if you hold on to him this year? He might walk because he gets expensive, but the chase for 50 or 60 home runs will get tickets sold this year. And he is on pace for 55 to 60 home runs. So that is a unique story that can get people to still come to the ballpark, even if they continue to slip down the standings. So it'll be interesting what Hazen does. I think if there's plenty of pitching prospects to be dealt to them, you got to trade whoever you got to trade. That's an expiring deal. But yeah, I mean, I guess they could stand pat, and they know that 26 is punched, but 27, the farm system's depleted. You got to build it back up. So
I don't see them doing that. I don't see them. All right, let's take a break here. John Wilner is next on the SEC Media Days, getting in the weeds as we do every Monday on college football and college sports. That's next. All right, as always, John Wilner joins us on Mondays. Wilner Hotline. Make sure you check out all of his content. Nationally syndicated columnist. Last week, John and I were sitting in Frisco, Texas, enjoying the Big 12 conference. And at the time, John said, well, I'm really interested to hear what the commissioner is going to say. So the commissioner spoke, fired some shots, whatever. Today, a week later, the SEC, I'm starting to believe the SEC is not the villain, that Tony Petitti could be the villain of the Big Ten Conference and all this. I didn't know that this had a plot twist to it. So what has happened already today in Atlanta around big SEC Media Days, John?
So 4 days. SEC does 4. Most everybody else does, 2 or 3. Greg Sankey, the commissioner, arguably the most influential man in college sports. He gave his State of the Conference address this morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. He spoke, got his talking points across, then spent a bunch of time answering questions from the media. The whole thing went for about an hour, and he talked about a ton of stuff. The biggest thing to me was that he specifically said the SEC and Big Ten have control over the future format of the college football playoff. Mm-hmm. He explained that, it's not something where you come in and you pound your fist on a desk and all of a sudden it magically happens what you want. But clearly, and there has been some back and forth about this, including last week in Brett Yormark at the Big 12, he seemed to indicate that all 4 conferences had an equal share in deciding the future fate of the playoff. Sankey said, no. The memorandum of understanding that was signed about 15 months ago gives the SEC and Big Ten the authority. He wants to work together, but it's clear that if they can't come to an agreement, the two big conferences are going to just kind of push their agenda through. Now, the interesting thing is that those two conferences are on the opposite sides. The Big Ten wants one model, the SEC wants the other model.
For playoff.
For the playoff,
yeah.
right. For the playoff starting in the 2026 season.
Right.
This coming year, we should make it clear. This coming season, it's going to be just what it was last year. 12 teams, 5 automatic bids, 7 at-large bids. Starting with the 26th season is a new contract cycle with ESPN, and they are probably going to go to 16 teams, and there's a big debate on the format. Big Ten is on one side of the negotiating table. ACC, Big 12, SEC are on the other side. It's the automatic qualifier model versus the at-large model. The SEC clearly favors the at-large model. So the Big Ten is basically on an island here, and it's a pretty radical proposal, right? 13 of the 16 spots would be guaranteed to conferences before the first game is even played.
Yeah.
And we talked about it a little bit, but it is, would kind of change the entire complexion of the regular season if you went into it knowing how many playoff bids each conference is getting ahead of time.
Okay, so I read and listened to some this morning. The quote from Sankey, he did say, if we ripped up the MOU, Memo of Understanding, that there could be something there. That was pretty radical. Like, I don't think you're going to do that.
No.
But John, he did say college athletics is not broken. It is stressed. It is strained.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
I actually do. It's the easier narrative to say it's broken and it's total anarchy and the transfer portal and the lawsuits, the playoff controversy, debate over expanding the NCAA tournament. You could easily make the case, superficially, it's broken. The model's completely broken. They're losing in court left and right. Kids can move around whenever they want. I tend to agree with Sankey. I think it is under extreme stress, like San Andreas fault level stress, right? But I don't think it's completely broken. There's still a deep passion among fans. There still is some semblance of an educational model behind it. Mm-hmm. The economic rights that the athletes have gained, I think, are good. So I would tend to agree with him. Now it could be it could get to broken. We're not that far.
How so, John? Would it be the Big Ten and the SEC say we're just going to walk separate ways and do our own thing?
Yeah, I mean that would be
breaking it. That would be
a big that would be one way it could be broken for sure. So if those two conferences kind of take their ball and form their own postseason, form their own competitive regular season, or if just the 4 conferences, the Power 4, were to form their own playoff football regular season. Mm-hmm. That's certainly one way. I tend to believe it's going to be okay, but as I've said before, with the portal and revenue sharing, NIL, we're not at the beginning of the end. We're at the end of the beginning, and this process is going to take another 6, 8, maybe even 10 years to play out. We're not going to know what college sports is going to look like in 2040 or 2050 until we get to 2030.
But I think that, at least for me, I'm starting to get around the bend of, these new rules, the portal and the players that had the extra COVID year and the this and the that. Look, if you're not up to speed by now and you're Kenny Dillingham or you're Brent Brennan here in Arizona and you don't know how to navigate, then you're not the right guy. If it takes you more than 2 years to figure it out, I'm sorry, you're drinking out of a fire hose, and the hiring that has to take place for these coaches now has to be one that we're not going to take a chance on somebody who's inexperienced with all these things. There's also now the general manager role that's showing up in college athletics that is completely new. And I am fascinated by that side of it. I don't believe that it's broken. I was with a guy, Dan, before I saw you in Texas, had breakfast with a guy who's the biggest Georgia fan, who flies to every game and all that stuff. Georgia alum. The offseason, he hates it. By the time he gets 2 weeks away, can't wait for it to get started. So it's always going to be there, I think. This deal about Sankey and Petiti feels different, John. It just feels like Like I'm siding with Sankey, which I never thought I would do. I always thought he was the Darth Vader of college athletics. Now I think it's Petiti.
Yes, sure. I totally get that. The thing about the Big Ten proposal is there are pieces of it that actually make a lot of sense. And you
Like
can
what?
make a logical case that by adopting the Big Ten model, it would be better for the regular season.
Like
And here's that.
In what way?
So here's that case. It is basically the Big Ten is saying we want to take the selection authority away from the committee. We don't want them deciding who's in it. They would be out of 16. They would basically decide there'd be 3 at-large bids. One of them's going to go to Notre Dame. So the selection committee would actually only be choosing 2 teams. But what that would do with the automatic qualifiers, the Big Ten and the SEC have 4, the ACC and Big 12 have 2. It wouldn't matter how many non-conference games you lost because the conferences would determine who gets their automatic bids based on conference play. So Ohio State under this model, hypothetically, Ohio State could play Texas, they could play Florida State, and they could play Notre Dame in that would make 3 incredible games for college football in September.
Sure.
They could lose all 3 and still get in the playoff because all that would matter is how they did in Big Ten play. That's essentially what the Big Ten is saying. If you want better regular season non-conference matchups, go to the automatic qualifiers because the selection committee will be removed from the process. They won't be able to say Ohio State was 0-3 in non-conference games. They're not getting in. It would be entirely the Big Ten's choice. That's the essence of what they're saying. It would make for a better regular season with more high-profile non-conference games.
Okay, the SEC side of the street is no, we don't want that. Why?
The SEC side of the street is if we go to a model in which there are 16 total teams and 5 are automatic qualifiers based on winning a conference. That is, no matter what they decide, the top 5 ranked conference champs are getting in. Okay, but in the 5+11 model, the selection committee would pick 11 at-large teams. The SEC says, that's good, that we're going to get 7 of those. We're going to get 6, 7, maybe even 8, because we're the SEC, we're the best conference, we're the deepest conference. We got the most teams ranked in the top, say, 15 to 20 every year. Our path to get the most bids is to create more at-large bids because the committee's going to pick our teams. So the SEC looks at 5+11 and they think, well, that's 6, 7, 8 bids for us. Why would we go to the Big Ten's model where we're only going to get 4 or 5?
What do ESPN and ABC want? That is the question because
I agree.
That is how this will be decided.
My understanding is that ESPN does not want the Big Ten model. And you could get a little into the conspiracy theories, and I'm not saying that's wrong, saying Big Ten is owned by Fox, ESPN Fox rivalry, ESPN naturally opposes anything Fox wants. And I'm not saying that's not part of this. But ESPN doesn't want the Big Ten's model because they don't want any aspect of it to feel predetermined because that could take away, in their view, from the drama. They love that every game matters and you don't know how it's going to play out. If 13 of the 16 spots, and it's really 14 because Notre Dame's going to get one of those at large, if 14 of the 16 spots are predetermined, ESPN is worried that the regular season will lose some of its drama and hence viewership.
Okay, my understanding is that through all this, we're going to see a whole bunch of contracts that are already in place for games involving Big Ten, ACC, SEC, Big 12. And I'll just keep it to Big 12. Big 12 is not going to be in bed with the SEC and the Big Ten in this new world, it sounds like. And if there are games that are already on the books, my understanding is a lot of those are going to be canceled. Are you hearing the same thing?
I think that there is a serious concern within the Big 12 and the ACC that if the SEC and Big Ten are talking about a crossover series by which, right, and every SEC team would play a big game against the Big Ten every year. If that's the case, SEC and Big Ten teams may say to, their scheduled game against Utah or against ASU or Arizona, you know what? Sorry, we're going to cancel that because we've already got a game against the Big Ten, right? Why don't we need to have a Big Ten opponent and a Big 12 opponent? That's too hard. So, yeah, there is some concern about that. And that's an example of how everything is a ripple effect in college football right now. Decisions that are made in Birmingham or in Rosemont, Illinois, have a deep impact on the ACC and the Big 12, the Pac-12, the Mountain West, the American. Everything is interconnected at an unprecedented level, partly because of the playoff, largely because of the playoff expanding. But the regular season schedules are an example of that. Yes, if there's a crossover series between those two, all the games that ASU's got scheduled against SEC teams in the next 8-10 years, they could get canceled. Absolutely.
Yeah, they have one with LSU from 2004 that they still haven't been able to.
Yeah. Well, and Arizona's got a home and home with Alabama scheduled in I think it's 2030 and 2032. Not positive of the dates, but that series could get canceled. I mean, think about it. If you're Arizona, Alabama coming to town, guaranteed sellout, right? Huge gate merchandise game for your budget.
National TV, no matter
National TV. That game could get canceled if this crossover series happens. So huge collateral damage potentially.
That is John Wilner chopping it up. We could do an hour, but we're not. That'll be for another week. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Brad.
All right, Graham Rossini is with us for a few minutes, and Graham has been on the gig now. The gig, 14 months.
Sounds about right.
Is that about right?
Feels like 14 years.
You look as good as ever, though. I was telling Kenny this. What do you know now, or asking Kenny this, what do you know now that you didn't know when you took the gig that you know now?
I just think the benefit of perspective helps a lot. Managing time, managing energy, preparing for the schedule. I mean, there's a lot of events. So we're running a business. We've got a department to run. We've got strategy. We've got things that we prioritize. And we've got 300 live events that we try to be present at, myself, our team, etc. And so now we've seen one time through the cycle, and it lets us just plan and prepare probably more efficiently this year than we did last year.
Do you have enough help?
We need more. Like we're definitely.
I wrote this a couple weeks ago. Like, I love the job you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. But you cannot be everywhere,
Right.
and it's nothing against your staff.
Yeah.
I'm not taking shots. It's just like he's spread pretty thin for 26 sports, and just the commissioner's conversations up there. It's like
Right.
those are big meetings. So it's a fair question, I think.
Yeah, it's a fair question, and again, we've had the benefit of perspective. Now I think we know a lot more about what we need than we did a year ago, and kind of by design last year was we're going to get really tight as an administration. We went from 20 sport administrators down to 6. We're going to consolidate that even more because I believe there's benefit in going deep on sports with a few people that really understand. It's less about the sport-specific insight, it's more about what do multiple sports need that we can go find on their behalf.
Sure,
and
sure.
We're trying to build departmental solutions as much as we're trying to build sport-specific wins. And so, yeah, I think we've been able to evaluate our team. We've been able to understand the landscape and build a team moving forward where it's pretty obvious, like we need to focus on revenue generation. We need to focus on experiential improvements in our space, better events, more consistent events, a higher level of polish and detail to the things that we do. we're going to build a team that reflects the needs of the moment.
Yeah.
And we know a lot more about what that means a year on the job, post-house settlement, post-first year in the Big 12, and so now we're a lot more informed on the quality of talent and the type of roles that we need to build around.
This is not a negative, but I have to believe you're drinking out of a fire hose at certain points this last year, because you were being thrown, everybody, not just you, everybody in your position within the conference and in college sports is being thrown this left-handed fastball, Randy Johnson one pitch, Kurt Schilling the next pitch, Byung-Hyun Kim another pitch.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it's just, wow. And how did you manage to get through all that?
I think that was actually one of our benefits, is that we weren't burdened by the way things have always been done. We weren't subject to how athletic departments have always operated. We got to really design what we need moving forward. And so I actually don't look at that as a negative. I look at that as part of the blessing of, it was new to everybody. So certainly I'm new to the job, new to the role, first time leadership position like this. But the landscape around us is so unfamiliar to people that have been in this industry for 10, 20, 30 years that it didn't hold us back. The lack of experience as an AD was not a limiting factor on anything that we did last year. So I think it just allowed us to stay very agile, very ASU first and foremost focused. Yes, we want to be a great member of the Big 12. We're proud to be in this conference. We're looking out for the best decisions for ASU first and foremost, knowing that that is also going to benefit the Big 12 conference.
When the commissioner spoke today, and he spoke about the benefits of the Big 12, comparatively speaking, and where they are in the playoff, everybody in the conference lock stock on that?
Yeah, I think we're all aligned that we want this to be kind of a meritocracy. Earn your way in. Win the conference and you have a pathway. Be one of the best next 11 teams and have a chance to go compete moving forward. I think if you start handing out too many automatic qualifiers based on conference affiliation alone, it turns into much more of an invitational and less of a championship format. And I'm a big believer in the expanded CFP. We benefited from that directly last year. I like the idea of going from 12 to 16 because I saw what it did for our community, for our fan base, for our university, and I think there's merit to that. And even, I know we want to create that separation from college sports to pro sports, but look at the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, 45 to 50% of those teams are getting a chance to play in the postseason. We're talking about 12 or maybe 16 college football teams against 64 Power 4 teams, 100, almost 200 Division I teams at all levels. It's a good thing to talk about more schools, more athletes, more fan bases, more communities getting a chance to touch a championship. But you got to play your way in. This can't be a birthright. This can't be a given based on conference affiliation alone. And so, yeah, we're very unified that 5 automatic qualifiers, 11 at large is the way to go.
In this new world, can you continue to have a preseason schedule that includes NAU? Is that going to be a Board of Regents question? I like it, but I also am a realist. You're going to look at this new world that we're in and say, those games in late August and September have to be a little bit tougher. Is there merit to what I'm saying, or is there not?
There's merit to it. There's a lot of unknown on the scheduling front. And I say that from a couple of reasons where a year ago, the pathway to 10 wins was the most important, however you got there. Now in expanded CFP, there's a lot more stock in quality of opponent, quality of road win, damaging value to a home loss against a lesser opponent, whatever that would mean. And then also the Big 10 and the Big 12 play 9 conference games. The ACC and the SEC play 8 conference games. At some point that does need to level out. I do believe that we should all be on a level playing field, probably at 9 games. That's going to affect a lot of our future non-conference scheduling commitments that we've got. So we're very forward thinking in terms of our non-conference schedule, understanding that the way that we've always done it is probably not the way it's going to be moving forward. Whether we continue some of the teams that we've historically played, to be determined. I think we've got games scheduled through 2030, 2031. In some respects, we've got 9 games against SEC schools, including last year's game against Mississippi State. So, I think the first shoe to drop will be what the college football playoff format looks like moving forward. That's really going to be informative to how we schedule moving forward.
Commissioner spoke today about opening in Dublin, Ireland, said he'd like everybody to do that. Where's ASU?
Yeah, we're very focused on international competition. There was a hint about baseball in Mexico City. We may be in that conversation. We're talking about college football overseas in Europe right now as well. I think that could be a reality for us in the near future as well. Basketball in the Middle East is a big topic of conversation right now. We're probably less in that conversation today, but we've expressed interest moving forward. It's good for us. We're a very international brand as a university.
Sure.
We've got 100 athletes from all over the world. across our 26 sports. So we like the idea of playing in untraditional markets. It's a big part of what I did with the Diamondbacks. We played in Sydney, Australia. We played in Mexico.
Yes, you did.
We built a facility in the Dominican Republic. So I'm a big believer on international competition to spread the brand in powerful ways. So we're very much in those conversations with the commissioner.
Your voice carries a lot of weight then in the room, I would think. I don't know if you want to pat yourself on the back, but you've been there at the highest level.
Yeah.
Guys, this is what it's like. So you bring that to the table in the conference.
Yeah, I think it's helpful perspective that a lot of people have the fear of the unknown. We try to embrace that. And we saw firsthand what that did for the D-backs brand getting into the Southern Hemisphere, the first games played in the regular season in the Southern Hemisphere ever. What that did for opening up, there's a lot of baseball, softball talent in New Zealand. We saw the derivative of that. Long documented history for the sport, having a presence in Latin America. We were able to really accelerate that with our new academy in the Dominican Republic. And so, yeah, I think that perspective, bringing that into ASU, bringing that into the Big 12, and knowing firsthand that, for us playing games in Mexico makes a lot of sense in all of our sports. It's an easy drive for fans in Sonora. They like great experiences. They know it's an easy commute. They've got the same passion and fandom for American sports that they would for Mexican sports. And so we're very, very focused on every opportunity we can to be much more internationally relevant. Certainly in college football, as that's continuing to be something that you see with games in Ireland and games elsewhere in Europe, but all of our sports for that matter. It's the beauty of having 26 sports with a reach all over the planet.
It would solve the how do we go to a game in late August, early September when it's 110 degrees? We can try everything we want to get fans to come, but if you say we're going to go to fill in the blank, that takes care of one. You got about 2 more weeks to figure it out. You can't play more than one worldwide,
right? Or
could you?
Yeah, I think you're going to be on an occasional schedule out the gate. It's probably a once every 4-year type dynamic out the gate. Week 0 enters the conversation when you start talking about international games, so it gives you a little bit more flexibility. I do want to be protective of home games. I think when we alternate between 6 and 7 home games, so that's part of the calculation. But when we do it, it would be more of a special occasion than the norm, I would believe.
What's the future of bowls from your view?
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting to understand over this next cycle. I think what happens with the expanded CFP is going to really inform the future of the bowl games as we know it. And so I think that story is probably yet to be written.
Anything else that strikes you about today? I could say, hey, how's the team going to be this year? I could say, hey, Graham, are you going to get in the middle of it with a referee? Like, who was it? Guys, they were talking about Kenny on the game. They want more animated Kenny. I think they've got to have more animated Graham within the game.
So funny story about BYU, kind of on that point. So 2 things that I remember from that game.
Yeah.
One is the day after I saw Kenny's dad, John, and he's like, you guys are the perfect balance for each other. He's the high rolling up and down. You're kind of even keel. And so I heard a lot about the conversation that Kenny and I had on the field during the end of that BYU game. Come to find out, like he's filling time. He's like, look, we got guys in the locker room trying to find their helmet. Fans have got receiver gloves. Like, we're just trying to get the team assembled. Like, stay with me right here. We're trying to buy ourselves some time. So I'm just trying to calm him down and say, hey, we got 1 second left. We're going to win this game. We'll deal with the call after the game. Let's go close this thing out. He's like, just stay with me. We're trying to fill some time. I need X to go find his helmet so he can get back on the field so we can close this thing out. So a funny memory. We call that one the 2-for-1 special. We had
good.
2 field rushes for the price of 1 against BYU, and what an exciting finish for that game and what it unlocked for the rest of that season.
One other thing, Sam Levitt on a business side. There's a press conference later today with PayPal. I had him on earlier talking about endorsements. The whole business side of sports fascinates me when I see deals being put together.
Yep.
How involved are you in that?
Yeah, very involved. As a department, I'm also very personally involved because we believe that Sam should be deep into this Heisman conversation as the season starts. He's obviously got to earn it on the field, but we want to rally around the momentum that he has as a Heisman candidate and continue to help broker opportunities and deals and opportunities to give him national exposure. And so, this PayPal deal that the Big 12 put together, we've been instrumentally involved in for the last almost year. They came to us about a month ago and said, hey, can we get connected to Sam's team? We want to talk to him about some NIL. And that's the beauty of this new environment where NIL is less of the boogeyman. It's something that we can more directly embrace, and that happens at a local level with a lot of the local businesses around the valley that see the benefit of promotion with a student athlete from ASU. We're seeing that in football, we're seeing that in triathlon, we're seeing that in everything in between. And now that we can extend that into national partnerships that live at a conference level or a national brand deal like PayPal, it's just a sign of the times. But we're very hands-on with Sam and his team. They've got a well-oiled machine around him and his agency and the deals that we're trying to find for a marquee personality, the quarterback of a college football playoff team. And so it's a privilege to be able to join his team in that effort.
I am a Heisman voter, so I sat with him
There you
today
go.
about this, and been a long time. Last year I didn't say who I was going to vote for because we're not supposed to.
Right.
There was a running back that I looked at and I said, I think he's going to get better. And I also have Christian McCaffrey as a point of reference,
Yep.
a guy that got screwed on the West Coast.
Yep.
Pardon the language. And we saw what happened, right? So in his space, it is when you play, obviously he's got to do it on the field, but when you play Iowa State in early November and when you play Colorado, those two games are going to be nationally televised. Your television deal is much better. So that's part of the deal. Like, those are the games where he can do his thing. And then there's guys like me that hold on to my vote, and there's others that just get it out of the way. So I'm wondering, do you guys stay on top of voters? Is that something where billboards of Sam are going to show up around town?
I think
wall murals?
People in Phoenix are kind of aware of what's happening. We're going to continue to
yeah.
remind that. Our efforts are focused more on the East Coast and making sure that there's not the East Coast bias working against us. And we're talking with Sam's team and another consultant that we brought on that's got experience in the same effort to really understand, like, hey, what's the right use of time and energy to create that awareness? And he's got to go do it on the field. There's no doubt about that. This is not going to be something that we can campaign around. He's got to go perform to win it. But as he has success, we want to continue to communicate the star player that he is, the leader that he is, the competitor that he is, the amazing representation of ASU and Sun Devil football that he is. And so I think you'll see a lot of our time and energy spent more up and down the East Coast and making sure that we're creating awareness for the people who aren't fortunate like you are to see it kind of up close and personal every single day. We know that that's a dynamic. We know that there's a concentration of Heisman voters that are very East Coast focused, and we've got to account for that. We're also lucky that in our conference, with Colorado and Travis Hunter last year, they went through the experience. Adidas, who's been an incredible partner for us, has been a part of this a couple years ago with Washington and two of their athletes that were Heisman candidates. And so we've been benefiting from the perspective and the collaboration with others who have gone before us in that. I'd love to pick your brain about what you see to the extent that you can share on that as well. And all that feedback is helpful because we want to position our athletes in the best light to go get the recognition that they so deservedly have earned.
We have a problem, and that is I caused a bit of a rift between Jordan Tyson and Sam Levitt today.
Okay. Let's break this down.
Yeah, Sam Levitt says he is a better dunker than Jordan Tyson. Yeah, I know. So Jordan accused him of being a liar. That's a pretty strong accusation.
Okay.
Jordan Tyson said the only person who could beat me in anything is Kenny Dillingham at ping pong. So there's a rift. I didn't mean to cause the rift,
that's
but
good to know.
clearly Sam and Jordan need to be sat down and just work through this.
Well.
You don't want them trying to do dunks
No.
at this point of the season.
I'd rather, let's park that one until January. Let's see where we're at that point
Late
of the
January.
year. Late January would be ideal.
February.
So two things come to mind. Jordan's brothers in the NBA. So at some point, I'm going to give the basketball pedigree to Jordan Tyson. Sam's confidence is off the charts. He's an elite athlete. Sam was willing, I don't know if this has ever been reported or not, but Sam was willing to suit up for the basketball team at the end of the year when they were banged up with injuries. He rose his hand. Kenny was all for it. The timing just didn't quite play out, but Sam's look, I can hoop. I can play ball. I want to help Bobby out. They've got some injuries right now. He was willing to raise his hand. It speaks to his character. It speaks to the selflessness of a guy like Sam Levitt, whose confidence is off the charts. That's good to know. We'll kind of manage that one.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Maybe inside the department.
Big meeting.
Big meeting.
Do you punish these guys, Graham? Do you wag your finger at them?
I like the fact that these guys want to compete.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think Kenny sets a high bar in the football building. He's got the basketball hoop in the team room. They play ping pong. They play foosball. They play video games. They've got it all going on in there, and it's a healthy spirit of competition. But I'll need to dig into that. Thanks for the heads up.
See, all we're doing here is adding to his list. I appreciate your time.
These are fun things to navigate.
These are problems to have.
When they're competing or when they're arguing about who's the better athlete, I think that's a good dynamic to have on your plate. So we'll sign up for that.
Graham Rossini, we appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thanks, man.